when you fail, when you drop the ball, that's when the real you shows up. Pressure, stress, chaos, uncertainty, the shit show of life.
Welcome to V is for Victory, a podcast about how small businesses overcome big battles. I'm your host, Jill Miller of Vera Creative, a boutique marketing firm in the Chicagoland area where I'm also a part-time professor of an advertising course. Join me as I talk with entrepreneurs about the challenges they face as well as their strategies for success. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of V is for Victory. My special guest is Matt Shoup. He is a serial entrepreneur, an author, a speaker, and an avid lover of Spain, of all places. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here today.
Yeah, so, where do I start? Let's start with Spain, because that was the last thing I ended with. So tell me a little bit about how you got introduced to the country. And you said that you do leadership and adventure retreats, right? To Spain. I'd love to pick your brain about how you grew that. How you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I do some events and it's like my dream to lead yoga retreats.
Yeah.
And I actually did my first silent retreat locally, but it had like really low turnout. So I'm interested to pick your brain as to just kind of, and I don't know, maybe because people want to go to Spain and they don't want to stay in their hometown, but
Yeah, they go for lots of reasons. Yeah.
Right. But I'll let you talk now.
Do you know that moment you have in life where you can think back and a suggestion or a nudge or just something that somebody said, "Hey, you should go try this," completely changes the direction of your life.
100%.
That's how I was introduced to Spain. I was 19, Colorado State University, started studying Spanish in middle and high school, and I used it outside the classroom. So I'd say my skills were fairly advanced for just being a student. And I have a Spanish professor in a Spanish culture class. And literally the end of every day, she's like, "Matt, you need to go to my country. You've got to go see my beautiful country and everything about it and the art and the history." And, she's just harassing me almost. And I just one day said, "You know what? I'm going to drop everything that I know, everything that is my bubble of certainty and security and comfort and go." So 2 months later, I'm literally touching down in Madrid, Spain, live with a family, fall in love with the country, the culture, the food, the history, the people. And when I tell people, I was 19, right? So if I would have gone to Germany, I'd be taking people to retreats in Germany. It was just that time in my life.
Right.
And coming back from that over the years of growing businesses, I travel there once a year. I take one of my kiddos each year. We do father-son, father-daughter trips. And then the whole family goes, but I'll always bring back some coffee. I'll learn a new recipe. And I love sharing the culture here. And the dream for like 2 decades now has been to take people over there. And I love business. I love people. I love leadership. And I love doing just crazy things, once in a lifetime experiences. I love throwing events and doing things that people say can't be done. So last March, we took our leadership team over to Spain. Actually, this time last year, we were there. And had an amazing time together. And that turned into our first official, it's called the Hike of a Lifetime on the Camino de Santiago. So I'm taking a group in September. There'll be 10 to 12 of us, and we're going to hike 70 miles over 6 days through Northwest Spain on the Camino. And it's going to be great company, great people, amazing scenery, food. And we're really going to focus this trip on disconnecting and unplugging, recentering, revisioning, and refocusing, and really just rejuvenating and restoring. We're going to dig a lot into our stories. Just everybody's coming at a different point in life. And you really just unplug, like you're in the middle of nowhere and you got to trust me, right? Yeah. And you're in the middle of nowhere with no connection to whatever you just left behind for a week. And it's going to be an amazing experience. I'm really excited about it. And that's a little bit of the Spain history. And logistically, it's been just interesting. There's a lot to plan because we're doing it all inclusive. So we're getting your ticket, you're touching literally from door to door. We've got everything taken care of. So, behind the scenes operationally, there's just a lot of logistics and liability, and you need to be flexible when things don't always go as planned. But that's the fun of it.
I love that you bring up the liability piece and the logistics piece because a lot of people don't think about that when they dive into events. And I think that they leave themselves really exposed and vulnerable. I mean, I did an overnight, it was like a 1 day overnight silent retreat, and I still had people sign a waiver. We were doing
Oh yeah.
yoga,
Hmm.
but there were dogs at the house. They were German shepherds, huge, big lovers, but you never know, right? And
Hmm.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's like a really important piece of business that I think a lot of entrepreneurs fail to address is some of those like legal nuances. So I love that
Yeah.
you bring that up. When you say we, and you obviously have a team of people helping you pull off
Mhm.
the behind the scenes. How many people are you working with? How many people does it take?
Yeah, so I own multiple companies and I have an executive assistant. It's my right hand woman. Her name's
Yeah.
Frances. And it's really she and I, and then we'll have other members sometimes will help to work on a little bit of design and things like that. My wife Emily will jump in. She's not on the payroll, but she's my free labor, right?
Gotta
But
love
it's
those.
a couple of us. When we planned the retreat for the team last year, it was a total of four of us that put this ultimate immersion experience on, and this was kind of a different theme that we had. But yeah, it definitely takes a lot of people
Does
and a lot of logistics.
does Francis get to go?
She went last year. Yeah.
Okay,
So
good.
she's a new mama. I know you said you just had your third. So Frances just
Yeah.
had her first child, and she's now working with me part time at the moment. And she's a busy mom.
Oh, awesome. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. You gotta bring the people who help pull it off, right? You gotta make sure
Absolutely, yeah. No, and that was one of the fun parts of it. It was interesting because when we did the ultimate immersion experience, that was more like a high paced, we're changing cities, changing locations. Think a
okay.
little bit of Amazing Race with some
Yeah.
surprise experiences, real out of your comfort zone leadership challenges, but then also like once in a lifetime experiences that you would never get to do, here stateside. So they knew about all that stuff. So it was interesting. I'm like, hey, I need you to plan this for me, but I can't tell you 20% of what. So there's even things that only I planned myself because I didn't want them to know. So yeah, it's interesting. There's a couple levels to it, depending on what you're putting on. Part of what we do is for the Camino in September, we have a couple of surprise excursions that I'm just not telling them what we're doing. They just have to trust me and believe in me.
And so I'm assuming your audience, do you know most of the people you're bringing with? Because I ask that because marketing the unknown can be really
Yeah.
challenging. Like, hey, we're going to go do cool things. Trust me. I'm not going to tell you what they
Oh
are.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
people have a need to know. And like you said, it can be a comfort zone just not knowing what's next. People are really yeah, I guess just uncomfortable. I was going to think of a better word there, but real quick, when we do our yoga teacher trainings, we never know what's next. They say, bring your water, your towel, your journal. You have no idea if you're going to be jumping into a 4 hour long, hot, sweaty yoga practice, or if you're going to
Yeah.
be sitting in meditation for an hour and a half or holding. One time we held like a particular pose for like 45 minutes. It was a
Right.
stretching pose. So you were on the ground. It wasn't like you were standing, but they say be ready for anything, and it
Mhm.
causes a lot of anxiety in people. People have to know. And so talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. No, and I'm glad you asked too, because we had most everybody that's going is just here from Colorado. So we all know each other. So we're sitting
Okay.
around the table. We had a luncheon here at the office on Friday, and I was going over the packing list and the logistics. And one of the guys says, he goes, "Man, I'm a very high detail oriented, logistical, pragmatic. I would have researched this thing for days and then never made a decision. But I know you and I trust you and I know the love you have for Spain and I know your, credentials per se in the leadership and business space. So he's like, I just trust you wholeheartedly. So, but I just have another gentleman who committed today. We literally just met through Podmatch on a podcast. I came on his podcast. We got chatting a little bit and all of a sudden he's coming. So I'm putting it out there to the world, but yeah, there's a process of we need to get to know each other. You need to have a certain level of trust and confidence in me, but also still be okay with some of the uncertainty. I'm just not going to tell you what we're going to do for our closing experience on the last day because, um, A, it could change depending on how the travel goes, but B, there's just a fun element to that. And a lot of the Camino too. This is an experience where you get up, you have everything on your back that you need for the day. and you really don't know what's going to be in front of you for the day. So you really do have to embrace the unknown, the unexpected. And that teaches people a lot of things because I'm a control freak, right? I need to know everything that's happening every minute of the day.
Yeah, I have a client right now who talks a lot about like microdosing discomfort. So just putting yourselves in,
Mhm.
obviously safe and environments, but just situations where like, ooh, that's uncomfortable, but I managed it. Ooh, ooh. And you do that
Yeah.
over time. And then when life throws the unknown at you, you can deal with it because it's like, oh, I've been here
Mhm.
before. I felt this like slight twinge of discomfort. And I love that.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
love that analogy for life because I know the majority of us are way too freaking comfortable with our lives, with our
Yeah.
finance, like just with that, just the amenities that we have and everything at our fingertips and the
Mhm.
immediate gratification. And like you said, the knowing what's next, knowing your day to
Yeah.
day. So yeah, when you get to Spain and there's an experience and someone's like, oh, I'm afraid of heights, or, so their
Mhm.
resistance pops up from one of the
Yeah.
guests.
Mhm.
What's the coaching look like? What's the leadership
Yeah.
look like? And like, how do you get them to overcome their fears?
That's really funny that you ask and funny. It's almost like we planned this, right? And we didn't.
Yeah, no.
And you talk about heights. So Seville is my favorite place in the world. And I know it's audio only, but I have this tattoo of the Giralda. It's this big tower.
Hold it up again and
It's a
we'll
big,
do a
yeah. And it's
screenshot here.
do a screenshot here.
Yep.
But it's this huge tower, and you can actually scale up ramps all the way around, all the way up to the bell tower. And this thing is, I mean, it's hundreds of feet in the air. And when we went over to Spain, I joked, I said, hey, is anybody afraid of sharks? And like, we're not going to do anything with swimming with sharks. But one of the things that came up was heights. And one of our sales reps, his name is Jim, he goes, dude, I'm staying on the ground. And I said, Jim, I'm not going to make you do anything that you're not comfortable with. So it comes time for this experience, and you literally, what is it? It's 34 floors, so 340 feet, I believe. So Jim and I walk in, at the bottom, and you're enclosed. So you don't really realize how high you are. There's these little tiny Moorish arched little windows, that you can kind of peek out of and get perspective. So we're just walking up this thing, and he's getting nervous and he's getting nervous. And I'm like, listen, you can stop whenever you want. You can go back down, but just remember every step higher that you take is one level higher than you thought you were going to be. Cause he's like, I'm keeping my butt on the ground. Like that's what he said. And he got up to like 29 floors, and, the rest of us went up, and he goes, hey, I'm going to turn around and go back down. And I think there's two ways to look at that, right? It's like, oh, you didn't make it to the top. No, you went up 29 floors higher than you thought you were, and that's awesome for you. So even in a moment where you didn't get to the top, he got 29 floors higher than he had ever been. And that was a really cool takeaway. At the end of the day, we'd enjoy dinner, we talk about the day, we debrief, and that was a big conversation that day with him.
I love that. It's all about perspective. And let's transition to business because business is like that. Oh, I failed. Well,
Mhm.
no, you didn't. Right. I've told the story on the podcast before, but maybe for new listeners, my first freelance project out of the gate, when we presented our findings, it was a market research project. We were helping a coffee shop owner kind of decide like what town he was going to open in, what town they were going to open in. And we kind of said, every town you're looking at is really saturated and we've crunched the numbers and it just isn't looking good.
Yeah.
You're going to be 1 in a million here and you're going to have to sell a heck of a lot of coffee to make your overhead. And he got mad and he hung up the phone on us. And with a year later, I found this out. They took our advice. They didn't open a coffee shop. Instead, they bought existing coffee shops that were located inside universities, like a chain that was inside
Mhm.
universities, and they were just absolutely thriving.
It's
But
awesome.
for a year, I thought, oh, I made this guy mad. And, I'm second guessing my research and my results and I'm recrunching the numbers and, and so it's all perspective because it's like,
Yeah.
actually, I did my due diligence. I saved him from a bad decision. And I
Mhm.
can't take all the credit for that. I should say my colleague and I, because I had
Yeah.
somebody working with me. So yeah. So it's all about perspective. So he didn't fail to reach the top. He successfully
Yep.
made it 29 flights.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah,
we got back down and we're standing there on the ground. I mean, you stand there and this is like it's right around the big cathedral in Seville. It's the biggest Gothic cathedral, or maybe second biggest Gothic cathedral in the world. And you're standing at the base of this tower and you're looking up and I'm like, hey, you were right up there. Like
yeah,
you were there. He goes, I was there. And it didn't feel like I was there, but he was there. Yeah. So it was,
yeah,
and then, next time he goes, then maybe he goes to 30, 31, 32.
yeah.
But it was a fun experience. Yeah.
Yeah. So how have you seen this kind of perspective and this storyline play out in the, what, 600 businesses is it that you own?
No, just a little fewer. Yeah, just six. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's fun, tying the leadership experience that we did with the team to business. We dropped them into a country that most of them, I don't think any of them had ever been there before. They didn't know the language. And we did a little Amazing Race style challenge. So they all got an orange envelope with some clues and a little bit of money. And the first one was in a little suburb right outside Madrid. It's called Alcalá de Henares. It's the hometown of Cervantes, the famous author. And it was like, hey, you need to go talk to somebody that you've never met before and ask them directions to this coffee shop. And then when you get to this coffee shop, you need to order and drink a coffee. And then
Or drink whatever
um,
you actually ordered.
and then a famous local pastry that they're known for there, and you need to go understand where that is and how to find it. And it was really interesting. And I think at face value, you're like, what the heck does that have to do with
Oh,
business and selling? It's like, hey, maybe you
I
come
know
across a
exactly where you're
client
going. Yeah,
where
yeah,
there's
yeah.
like cultural differences and you shook the hand the wrong way and it offended them, or so personality styles. And it was just interesting to see how people did under stress, how they came together, how everything works better when you bond together as a team. And the details matter. That was a big thing because I intentionally threw some fun details to kind of throw them off course. So one team, they came back and they're like, we're done. And they're high-fiving and celebrating. And then I started going through the checklist. I'm like, you didn't do this, this, and this because you were focused on this and you missed this. So it's, devil's in the details, right? Those little details and paying attention to them is huge. And I've found that in a team, you have that spear, right? That person that says, all right, I'm gonna take control, I'm gonna take charge, I'm gonna punch through this challenge. And then you have the person that's the real steady supporter. They're making sure everybody's okay. They're not going to go first, but they're going to make sure everybody gets through together. And then you have the analyzer, right? And then you have the person that's just kind of having fun the whole time. They're like a little squirrel, like a little party squirrel. So those are the four
Distracted
main
by the
personality
shiny
styles.
objects. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Well,
it was amazing. It was such a fun time. And you travel with people. That's the last thing. Like, have you ever just you think you know somebody and you've spent a lot of time, say, in business, and then you travel, you can't get away from them. You learn a lot about them. You learn their little nuances.
yeah,
And,
for sure.
that just, oh, I didn't really know that I ever knew that was a thing for you. And now
Yeah.
I know.
I didn't know you take 45-minute showers and use all the hot water.
Hmm. Yeah.
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 Yeah. No, I hear you. Well, here's where my brain went with that, though. You're in a country you haven't been before. You don't know the languages and you're presented with challenges. The first time you jump into entrepreneurship for yourself, you're in unknown land. You're in unknown
Hmm.
territory.
Yeah.
You're hit with admin, sales, marketing. There's so much language that you're going to be exposed to. What do you mean SOPs? What do you mean
Hmm.
strategy? Right? So it's
Hmm.
like you're not familiar with those things. And then entrepreneurship is just challenge after challenge. It's like
It is.
kind of
Yeah.
like when they say, like, what do they say? If you own a motorcycle, it's not if you fall, it's when you fall.
It's
Well,
when.
that's
Hmm.
business, right? It's not if you
Yeah.
fail, it's when you fail. And it's not when is there going to be a challenge? It's which challenge is going to pop up
Yeah.
today. Yeah. So that's kind of where my brain went with that.
Hmm.
So okay, so you talked to me a little bit about how you help somebody overcome fear or uncertainty in the moment. Talk to me a little bit about when you were establishing your 6 businesses
Hmm.
and maybe like a problem came up or a perceived failure.
Yeah.
Who were you in those moments? Like, where does your brain go in those dark moments? And like, walk me through what that's like. so that our listeners
Yeah.
can like hear it in a way that's like, okay, I'm not the only one, right? Like, my brain went there too, but here's how you can kind of pull yourself out of that funk. Because I think
Yeah.
entrepreneurs is a lot of self-talk every day, right?
It is this internal permanent conversation that for me seems like it doesn't stop. And you almost don't want to say it to anybody because they'll think you're crazy. But then you go nudge another entrepreneur and they're like, yeah, I have that all the time too. So I think like anybody that's listening to this, if they are a brand new first day entrepreneur, they're getting ready to go quit their job and be that tomorrow, or they've done it 20 years, that's always there. And a couple of things that I think about when you ask that question is there was a really clear distinction, I'd say pre 2013 and then post 2013 for me. I was really two different Matts with two different approaches and two different, one Matt, old Matt, reacted to a lot of things. New Matt responded to a lot of things. Quick story about that. My upbringing was very chaotic. I got bullied a lot, did not have a lot of certainty, confidence, and I was really just scared of the world. Like I would go out and take ass whoopings, like from people on the playground in New Jersey. So
Mm.
that teaches you things and it makes you have a perceived model of the world and belief in the world. So I'm like, hey, everybody's always out to get me.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going to take care of me. Got to take care of myself. So I found my first purpose and confidence mowing lawns at 10 years old to go get a boombox, grabbed a lawnmower, knocked on doors, made $1,000. And like nobody could beat me in that space. So like you could beat me up on the playground. You're not going to beat me up going down the street. I'm going to out magazine sell you at school. I'm going to out candy peddle you, that kind of thing. But what I carried from those experiences, if you're an entrepreneur listening to this, dig into your story. Think about those experiences that you had because they leave a very memorable impression on you and a programming and a belief system and an energy that you're going to do life with. And I was angry. So I get fired from the bank in 2005 and I'm angry about it. And I would have been angry about it if I quit. It didn't matter. I was just angry. I had a whole bunch to prove. I'm going to go make $1 million. Entrepreneurs, you're only good at a few things. Your business has
Yep.
20 things that need to happen. Find the two that you're good at, put everything you have into that, hire out the rest. And that takes some time and structure. But I realized like anger only takes you so far in business, and your business will only grow to the degree that you're healthy. So whatever level of personal, professional development, digging into your story, dealing with your trauma, whatever it is, right? This isn't touchy feely. Like this is real stuff. Whatever
Yep.
you've gone through, it's going to carry into your business. And if you don't
100%.
let go of it, it's going to be in your business. So I had this really, awakening, if you want to call it that, big coach, like one of the only people in my life that could ever tell me something because I'm aggressive, assertive, all those things. He's like, Matt, everybody's leaving the company because of you, not because of them. Knock
Mm.
it off. Your leadership sucks. You need to really be concerned and care for people, figure them out, help make them better. You're the only one that's you're the only one that climbed this mountain. You're leaving everybody behind and you're kind of a dick. And I was. So I really
Wait,
started digging in,
how
last.
long, when you heard that, take me back.
Mhm.
What was the initial, you're wrong, screw you, or did it really hit you? Was his delivery, because it's all in the delivery. Feedback is all in the delivery. You got to
For
know your
sure.
audience and how you're delivering that feedback to
Yeah.
them. He obviously
Yeah.
knew you. He knew how to deliver that feedback, but
Hmm.
what was the initial response right there from you? Did it take you a
Yeah.
while to own up
Uh-huh.
to that with that and take that accountability or?
Yeah, it was the angry response. It was F you, but I know you're right.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was, and again, like I ran a everybody's out to get you, hurt
Yeah,
you, betray you program. So I'm like, oh, this guy's just telling me this so he can coach me some more and make some more money, take some more
right.
money. Fuck F you.
Natural born
But I'm
skill.
like, you're right. I'm like, you're right. I am a dick. And I know that. But I'm really good at business. So, I made and it took, I can't look back and say, oh, it took 3 days. And it was just this journey. It was like, let me dig into my story. Let me be vulnerable. Like, this is a man, you can't be vulnerable, right? And an American business person, we just don't do that. We have to paint this picture of perfection. That's what my book, Painted Babies, about. So I said, hey, can we be vulnerable? Can we dig into some of the messy and not perfect parts of life, story, business, and see what's in there and then see how I can change things, right? So it's about getting called out, considering, where you're at, where you're going, and then committing to change. It's the 3 C's of changing your story. And yeah, I realized that if I kept doing business this way, part of that consideration is internalization, visualization, and destination. So you have to take all that feedback in. When he told me that, I'm like, okay, after I got over cursing him out, I said, like, let's paint this picture out 5 years. Where am I? Where's the business? Where are the people? Nowhere good. So I need to commit to change. And then you need to go state that to people very clearly, and
Yep.
then show that in your actions. And you're going to fail and fall forward as you do that. So yeah, it was a great turning point, but I mean, it was one of the best decisions I made. It's funny because there's one gentleman, his name's Kevin. He works here in our company. He's going on 14 years with the painting company. And he's been with me through that journey. So if you're like, hey, Kevin, you remember 2011 when this happened? He's like, oh yeah. I go, and you worked through that. That was a cool experience.
Oh man, so much gold there. Thank you for sharing
Thanks.
that, because
Yeah, thanks.
internalization, visualization, destination, 3 C's of changing your strategy. I absolutely love this. So that's all in your book. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
painted baby. Yeah.
And is that what you take to the stage when you're speaking? Is it kind of
hmm
that same
Yeah.
storyline and
Yeah.
lessons learned? That's great. That's like you
That's one of
said.
them. Yeah, that's the newest one. We had a
Yeah.
paint sprayer explode on a job site and almost killed a 9-month-old baby. We literally painted a baby, and that's a bad day in business
Yep.
for us. Like, with the space you're in, just think about what's that really bad day. And we handled it. We made it right. But I said, we're going to sweep this under the rug. We're never going to talk about this again. This is not 5-star, A+. You don't put this on your website in your shiny marketing brochure, or do you? Because a couple years later, I'm at the biggest sales call of my life, and this guy would not sign the contract. He'd done tons of business with us before, and he's like, Matt, you're always so put together. You're always so perfect. You're always so A+. This shiny marketing brochure is crap. And he throws it across the table, and he pushes contract back to me. And I'm trying to close him all different ways. He says, tell me about a time you messed something up and what you did about it. And when are we ever forced to go into that space and then share that and actually think that's gonna hold on, I'm gonna close business with that. So I told him paint a baby story. And he's like, boom, that's what you did about it. That's how you handled it. You're the kind of guy I want to do business with. Give me that
Mm-hmm.
contract. Let me sign that. And he said, you've always done good work for me. This is a big project. And I wanted to know, I've never had to see what you're made of because nothing's ever been on the line that forces you to show that. Example, you have your poster on the wall. Oh, where we stand for integrity and family values and taking care of others. Okay, well, everybody in your business is okay right now. You don't have to take care of them other than the day-to-day operations. Somebody just had a death in the family. Somebody just went through a really hard experience. Now something's on the line. Like now you have to show up and show that. And those painted baby moments allow you to go into that space. When you fail, when you drop the ball, that's when the real you shows up. Pressure, stress, chaos, uncertainty, the shit show of life.
Yeah.
Or business, right?
Well, and you're right though, and it can be kind of like a check to the ego when you realize who you are in those moments, right? Did you run?
Mhm.
Did you hide? Did you step up? Did you take ownership, accountability? Like who were you? And it's really
Mhm.
good to reflect. So yeah, so good. So good. One thing I also want to ask you about is you talk about advice to your 20-year-old self.
Mhm.
Okay, so what's the advice to your 20-year-old self, but also to like your 10-year-old self? Let's go back even
Yeah.
further.
Yeah. So should we start with 20 or 10?
Let's start with
I think.
20. Let's start
Yeah,
with
with
20.
with 20, because I'm 41, I'll be 42. And
I'm
looking back
41
at
too.
20, yes, we're in the 40s club. Love it.
Woohoo! But
I
I'm
would
still
tell,
having
yeah.
babies. Well, no, I'm done now, but I'm old for to have a
Are you
newborn.
good with three? But three
Yeah.
is an odd number. So three is an odd number, so you have to have four, and then you need to get a minivan.
We are out of bedrooms, and I will never, never own a minivan. And I have just had this conversation with somebody
So
else.
the Honda Pilot, I only have two kids, but the Honda Pilot's great because you can have, I think you can have like four or five kids, and then, everybody in the whole thing seats eight. So,
Yeah,
um,
well, I've got the XC90, the Volvo, and it doesn't have
okay.
enough
Yeah.
it doesn't have enough hooks for the car seat. So
Hmm.
I have to use one of the seat belts, which just doesn't anchor the car seat the same way.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
can't give it up right now. I can't give it up. I'm just not ready to bite the minivan bullet. I can't do it.
Nope. I'll never drive one. Never drive one. Just a thing. I don't wear ties because of the bank experience, the traumatic firing. And then I don't do minivans.
Yes.
Let's see. So 20-year-old Matt, I would go back and I would say your your story and what you've experienced from it is really going to play out in your business. I did not realize that. I thought you could really compartmentalize that stuff. And
Hmm.
you can to a certain degree.
Hmm.
But I really didn't realize that. I also didn't realize that leadership and putting people over profit is key in business. I was very X's and O's, very
Hmm.
business driving, focused, and I just had that different perspective. And I would say, Matt, things are going to take way longer than you think. And I would also tell him is that no matter how hard you work, no matter what you accomplish, there's still going to be some people's validation that you're looking for that you'll still never get it from. So stop caring so much about what they think.
And often those are the people closest to you. Do you experience
Hmm.
that? Yeah,
I sure
yeah,
do. Yeah,
yeah.
I sure do. Yeah. And being respectful of who those people are, right? I think everybody's got that in their life is, you're working so hard. These overachievers, many of them, they achieve tremendous things. But if you look back to why that moment, it was from a traumatic experience
Yep.
where somebody didn't give them something that they needed, and they're just searching for that. And so for me, because of that, we hit some big milestones, right? I went from six figures of debt, fired, standing in a parking lot, to millionaire on paper, right? Paid everything off, kicking ass in business, but I'm standing there still not able to enjoy or celebrate that at all.
Mm.
We had a huge financial accomplishment, 2008, and it was literally like we stroked that check. I looked at Emily, like, got to get back to work. She goes like, well, hold on, stand here for a minute. Nobody does this. We're like 25, 26. Nobody does this at 25, 26.
Yeah.
She's like, you're crazy. So that's taken me some time. I'd really encourage people to, stop and enjoy the fruits of the labor that you're putting in, and do it for you and your legacy and your story, not to try to change somebody else's treatment of you, reaction to you, whatever, right? Do it for you and for the
Yeah.
people you're supposed to serve, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. Yep. I love that. I love that ad there. And you say, you can kind of hide your past and your trauma and your bullshit to a
Mm,
point. And I think that point is like we talked about when your back's up against the wall. That's when you can't
yeah.
hide it anymore because that natural
Hmm.
response and that natural you comes out and all the compartments bleed together.
Well, yeah, and I'm sitting there in that office with Bill, with my client, and I'm like, I had forgotten about Painted Baby, and he's like, hey, I'm not letting you out of here. I'm not signing this contract until you share. And I just go, fine, like, painted a freaking baby. Do you want to hear about it? And he leans in. He's really intrigued, and I equate that to this dirty little secret that I
Yeah,
had
yeah.
within business, and you tuck it away in the closet, and everybody has one. You have one. Every listener has one. That is actually your most powerful story building and connecting with other people tool that you have. So in Painted Baby, the encouragement is, it's like, don't get put up against a wall to figure that out. Like, here's my
Yeah,
story. Here's what I
yeah.
did. Here's the structure of what I did after that. Here's how you can do it too. Here's other stories of people that did it. I have a story in there from a gentleman. He was a four-time felon. Now he's a full-time pastor. Have another story from a gentleman who had a gun in his mouth 33 years ago,
Mhm.
ready to pull the trigger. And he's like, gun, maybe the telephone. Gun in the mouth, maybe the telephone. And he put down the gun, picked up the phone. Now he runs a hugely successful firewalk company.
Mm.
Worked for Tony Robbins for decades. So it's these things that we're scared to shy away from because what you get on social media and everything's perfect, right? Perfect life,
Oh,
perfect,
yeah.
perfect wife, vacation, everything. Look at my eggs this morning. They're so perfect the way I
Yeah.
cooked them. Like bullshit. Like your kids were screaming. You know,
Yeah.
you just spilled something. The car broke down, minivan or not, it broke down, and you're having a really bad day. So like, yeah, people, and we posture, right? And we set this expectation we can't meet, and it's all just it's false.
Did you
Um,
thank Bill in the book? Because was it Bill?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Did you thank him in the book? Like,
yeah,
hey,
yeah.
this story is only being told because
You know what's interesting? So what's interesting? I opened the podcast with you remember that moment, like Maria Del Mar. Hey, go to Spain, go to Spain.
yep.
Like you changed my life. We're doing these trips. We started a scholarship. I go, do you remember that? She goes, nah, kind of.
Yeah.
And then I went back to Bill. I said, do you remember that conversation in the office? Because the book opens up with this encounter we have in his office. He's like, nah. He's like, you just always done right by me. He goes, I really don't remember that conversation. But if that's how you
Oh,
remember it and it helped you, it helped you. He's just this like
yeah.
straight shooting dude. So like that's the other thing too, right? When you're doing life, you're doing business, you might just be being you. Bill is just being Bill. That's how he is. Just go be you. You might say something, do something, give somebody a look, a comment, send an email, whatever, and it totally changes the trajectory and direction of their life. And you might not even remember that. It might take them 10, 20 years to come back and tell you that. So that's why being real, vulnerable, authentic, unique is so important in business.
100%. Oh my gosh. This is such a good conversation today. Uh, Thank you, Pod Match.
Thanks. Yeah.
Plug the Pod
Love the
Match.
pod match. Yes.
I get so many requests from that thing, and I'm like, who now? What do you got now? It's hard to filter through. It's almost like the social media, the podcast world, because it's like everybody's putting their best foot forward. I'm an author. I'm a 10-time
Hmm.
bestseller. It's like I don't
Yeah.
care about that. I don't care about
Yeah.
that. I care
Yeah.
about, like you said,
Gotta get real.
who you are in the trenches. Yeah.
And like
Okay.
one other thing to add, just to add to that too, is what I tell people, and this is a really key distinguishment is don't put away your shiny marketing brochure. If you're on Podmatch and you're a guest and you're pitching somebody like, yeah, best-selling author, serial entrepreneur, like here's the list. But guess what? Here's some things I really screwed up. So it's like you have to enter if all you do is share your painted baby story, you're like, I suck. I screw
Yeah.
things up. I'd be a really good guest. Like you're gonna get that. They're gonna swipe which way? What's the
Yeah. Yeah.
reject swipe? Yeah,
Yeah. I
they're gonna
think
swipe you out of the
it's a
out of there,
subtle
right?
pass.
Uh-huh. Pass.
It's,
Yes, you got
yeah.
passed on this time.
Yes, it's a
So
subtle pass. I don't know what it looks like from their end, but I'm always like, cringe. Um,
yeah,
share your butt. I think that's what we've learned.
right,
Share
right.
your butt. I was successful butt. Share your
Hmm.
butt.
Yeah, yeah. And
Um,
I challenge everybody, go out and do that. Like when you're in your sales pitch, you're doing your thing right before you ask for the business. You tell them, hey, it's the pre-close, right? Because there's still process. Hey, I'm going to ask to do business with you. Can I just share something that most people aren't going to share? Most companies will not do. And I'm sure my competition would love to know. So let me just tell you first, we really screwed this up last week.
mm,
We do have a 1-star review. Can I go take you to it and read through it with you and show you where we messed up? And they're like, what? This person's being honest. They made a mistake. Wait, they're human. And then what does the customer do or the potential whoever in the relationship? They're like, oh, I am too. And you throw all the BS away and you just
mm,
connect at a deeper level. Plus they know if something like we had some incidents happen on this big job with Bill. And he's like, dude, I know you're going to take care of it. He's like, I'm going on vacation. Just tell me when it's done. You've got it.
yeah.
And it just makes things so much easier.
Sometimes that's even more pressure. I feel like when the customer has that much faith in you, you're like, oh crap, now I really got to deliver because I can't let them down now. There's this
There is.
level of
Mhm.
expectation, and
Mhm.
I can, I have felt that. I know.
It's that, but then it's also like, huh, how cool is that they have that
Oh,
confidence in me? So
right,
you've
right,
got
right.
to have it in yourself. And it's always that, hey, we've got to serve this person. But if I had set it up differently, hey, everything's going to be perfect, A plus 5-star. When this particular situation hit the fan on this job, it would have been like, hold on a minute. Um, let's stop. We're not finishing this. I'm firing you. And I remember that you set an expectation you can't meet. The key premise in business, right? You don't want to overpromise and under deliver.
Right.
And that's
Yep.
all this A plus fake, social media kind of stuff
Yep.
is.
Yep. 100%. Oh,
Mhm.
everyone knows about my love hate, mostly hate relationship with social media. As a
Well, it's like
marketer,
you're
you don't
getting,
hear that too much, but that's my honest story. um,
well, in real estate, we have a saying that on a listing, beautiful photos, right? And your buyer says, "Oh, let's go see that house." And you walk in and they're like, "Dude, we got catfished."
Yeah.
Right? So over promising, painting this picture of perfection, you are literally catfishing your client. Because
Yeah,
when
right.
it comes time to deliver, it's like shows up.
Oh,
It's
the
like,
whole relationship is
that's not what I
thrown
thought I
off
was
from
getting. Yeah.
go. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, well, where does jujitsu tie into all this?
Yeah. Jujitsu, gosh, it sounds cliche. It saved my life and changed my life in a lot of ways. So growing up in the environment that I did, I teach kids now, right? And I look back to my childhood. I didn't have tools to deal with bullying. I remember the day I'm hiding behind this playground equipment. I'm in third grade, and these fifth graders, they're like giants, right?
Yeah.
Fifth compared to third, throwing rocks and they're smashing off of this playground equipment. I was like finally fed up. So I pick up a rock, I throw a couple back, and I split this kid's head, face open, almost blood transfusion, dozens of stitches. Like that was how I responded and reacted to that. I literally had no tools. I was just a scared little kid. So, growing up, what does that turn into? I find all these ways to posture and try to look tough. So I was a big weightlifting meathead, 26 years old, walk into a jiu-jitsu academy thinking I was going to do kickboxing. And I came in at the wrong time, came in during jiu-jitsu class. And it is effectively you wrestle somebody to the ground and you ultimately choke them, put them in a joint lock, and they tap out, they give up. And then you reset, do it all over again. So I come in there and, I'm 220 pounds and I go, what is this stuff you guys are doing? They're like, oh, it's jujitsu. All you have to do, and they were messing with me. All you have to do is just go like that little guy, just go pin him and like choke him and then he'll give up. So they throw me out there with a 15-year-old kid, 130 pounds, and they go easy on him, and they're like, don't forget to tap if you want him to stop. I'm like, I'm not, he's going to tap. And this kid just kicked the shit out of me just over and over and over again. So the business lesson is right. Like he has 130 pounds. He has less weight resources, less strength resources, but he was resourceful with what he had. He let me drive forward, used that against me. And jujitsu is this human chess match of your physical body, your mind, of like, what am I working with and how can I take advantage of this situation to ultimately, render somebody unconscious, helpless. So it's a great way to defend yourself. Like I love teaching it to kids because now they have tools
Mm-hmm.
in their tool belt. They're not going to, I tell kids, like, I'm not going to tell you or your mom or dad that you're not going to experience bullying. You still will, but those bullies are going to learn real quick that you're not an easy target and you're going to respond in different ways than a lot of people do. And jujitsu it puts you into a place of adversity. Somebody's trying to physically choke you or break your arm, and you have to be patient and figure out a methodical way out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't, you just tap out and then reset. So it pushes your boundaries every day. It's a beautiful sport and art.
It's delaying that flight response almost and the fight response at the same
Mm-hmm.
time. Ooh,
Mm-hmm.
I love that. So, okay, so we
Yeah.
never went there. So then what do you tell your 10-year-old Matt?
Man, what would I tell him is that you're loved, that you're seen, that you're going to grow up and do great things. Definitely keep digging into the business thing. Don't try to please people that are never going to be pleased. And that's what I'd say. That's what I'd say. And I'd say, dude, you got to come do jujitsu because like my kids
Get there
started when
sooner.
they're 4. Yeah, my kids started when they're 4. My son's 15 and he chokes out full grown men.
It's fabulous. So you are
Fun
loved.
story. Oh, sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but I
Oh,
have a
I was
fun
I was
story
gonna
about
go
that.
to
But
into a story. I'll let you. You're the guest.
no. Well, it was really interesting because like I'm imagining as this experience happens, if this would have been me with my dad or another kid with their dad, we're in San Francisco, and I've traveled a lot, go to big cities, and transients, homeless population,
Yes.
they will walk up and ask you for money. You tell them no, they go away. Not in San Francisco. Don't know if you've ever been there.
I have been there,
I,
yes.
Okay, so apparently this is just a thing. It's your welcome to San Francisco. Is we're walking down the street. I've got a cannoli in my left hand and nothing in my right hand. Riley's walking on the right side of me. We're walking down the street. Homeless guy walks up. I've had hundreds of homeless people walk up, ask for money. I'm like, okay, he's going to walk up, and I'm going to tell him no. We're going to keep going. He walks up, boom, punches me. in the like punches me physically. No, and I should have seen it coming. I just wasn't ready for it, and I immediately react and I backhand him across the face, and I square up, and I'm holding a cannoli in my lead hand, right, like squared up,
Didn't drop
and I'm
that.
like, what are you? I go, no, it's like a $5 cannoli, five
Yeah.
$6 cannoli. It was good too,
Save the
and.
cannoli.
And I immediately go, okay, this guy, like, we're going to figure out what's about to happen and we're going to handle this. And I look over, like, hold on, got to check on Riley. And he's standing there. He's got his hands up. He's squared up right next to me. And I look at him and he looks at me and he's like, how are we doing this, Dad? You want me to go or do you want to go? He's 13 at the time. I mean, full grown man. And I had 100% certainty he would have physically handled that guy. But just that kind of confidence, like when I
Yeah.
was 13, I don't know what I would have done.
Right.
I can only think about how, my family would have responded or reacted. So just jujitsu, I think everybody should do it. Everybody should do it. You're never too young or old or out of shape or whatever. Like, stop all these. Like, just go in. If you're 600 pounds, go in there. Figure it out. I've seen
Yeah.
people lose hundreds of pounds.
Mm.
People from traumatic experiences. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's I've unknown territory for me for sure, but I have a
Mm-hmm.
well, both two out of the three are boys. I would love for them to
Mm-hmm.
be in something like that. I can only imagine the life lessons that they're teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, just the confidence piece alone for children these days is huge. And
Yeah.
as a parent, it sounds like your childhood was somewhat similar to mine in that no one was teaching you how to be confident. I think that's like it's a worry it's a fear that I have, that because I wasn't taught, I won't be able to teach them, right?
But that's a lot. I mean, that's with what I came from, part of why I get up and do what I do every day is I want to give to my kids the things that I didn't have. And you sit here as a parent, you're like, well, I didn't have this, so how can I teach this? Well, do the exact opposite. Like,
Yeah.
there's a great start, and you can learn anything on the internet. So if you don't have confidence, and when adversity comes at you in a certain form and you shut down and you cower, like, you can go learn in so many different ways. Like, I mean, back in the 90s growing up, like there wasn't that available at the click of a button.
Yeah.
So, but a good start is do the opposite. Well, I didn't have this, so I can't do that. Well, you're just going to continue that,
Yeah.
family
Yeah.
legacy, whatever that is. And if you want to change it, you need to do the work. Somebody's going to do that work that's going to change it for generations to come. And if it's not you, it's not going to be anybody else, because that's a hard thing to do.
I love do the work. Thank you for that reminder. Everybody has heard me
Mhm.
say that 1,000 times. You go to my socials, it's all over my socials. Go to my clients' socials. I work it into their content. I love
Yeah.
it. Do the work. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up, but I want to ask you just one to two more things, and then we'll wrap with how people can connect with you and find you. But
Yeah.
so, what is your message then? We talked about the message to 20-year-old Matt and 10-year-old Matt. What's your message just to the general population? If you had a platform to tell the world something, what is it that people need to hear?
That their story matters. Your story matters. You are unique, you are loved, and you have every opportunity to overcome whatever kind of adversity that you've had in your life and make a change. And there is some kind of group of people, of population, that you're here to serve. And I just encourage you to just dig into your story and find out what that is, and then just put everything into that, and know that it's going to take probably 10 times longer than you think. And don't ever give up.
I love that message. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, okay. So where can people get your book, find you?
Yeah.
Where's the information about Spain?
Everything's on my website, mattshoup.com.
And I'll put that in the episode notes. And are
Awesome.
you on social media too?
Yeah, I'm on all the socials. So on my website, there's a little bar on the side. You can click
Perfect.
on, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I got a TikTok recently. I don't dance, but still
Oh,
trying to
got
figure
a
the TikTok out. So
TikTok.
yeah, I'm on
You
I'm on
don't
all
have
that
to
stuff.
dance.
Right, right.
No, no, you don't have to dance on TikTok. That's hilarious. All right. Well, Matt, thank you for your time today. I learned a lot from you.
Thanks for having me here. So much fun.
Yeah, I love your share. I love this conversation. This is going to be, I won't be able to wait for this one to be released. So great. Thank you. And, yeah, so like I said, I'll put that in the episode notes. And everybody, don't forget to like, share, comment, and follow Matt. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening